Welcome back. Glad you've chosen to watch part two of the non-Christmas story. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Harry Phillips, and I'm the author of When the Kingdom Comes, From Global Chaos to Eden, a book that I've written detailing the coming kingdom of Jesus Christ and the fact that Christians will be there for the full 1,000 years as part of the governing agency, being co-heirs with Christ. We will rule and reign with him for those 1,000 years. But I've taken a small departure, and I've decided to talk about the scandalous rumors and events that surrounded the virgin birth of Mary. The last video was quite lengthy. I apologize. I'm going to try and keep them a little shorter. If you're like me, if they're 7 or 8 minutes, fine. If they go on and on and on, tend to go look for something shorter to watch. I get it. So not to review too deeply, but the fact that the virgin birth was such a scandalous thing. Here we have Joseph engaged to Mary during the espousal period, and we talked about that in the last video. And here she comes up pregnant with no explanation other than an angel came and said that this was what was going to happen to me. And I postulated and asked you, the viewer, to consider, how would she have explained herself? How could she have given proof that an angel indeed had come to her and announced that the Son of God would be born through her in a miraculous virgin manner? And besides that, who would believe her? This is indeed an unbelievable thing. And maybe her parents, considering her character, would have believed her. But I don't think Mary spent a lot of time trying to convince anybody of what had happened. And so I think human nature being what it was and is, that in the little town of Nazareth, it wasn't long before the rumors began to spread, particularly after Mary had come back from visiting Elizabeth. And at this time, John the Baptist is born. Mary is 3 months going on 4 months pregnant. And she's not going to get into the town of Nazareth without being seen for sure. And to top it all off, Joseph chooses to go ahead and marry a pregnant girl. And you can only imagine what kind of pressure he was under from his friends. Is he going to be able to explain to them, an angel came to me in a dream and said, take Mary as my wife? Who's going to believe him? His family? His brothers and sisters? His close friends, all the other people in Nazareth? I believe that we have here in this story something so incredible, the fallout of which we do not see in scriptures except in a read between the lines situation. And so Mary and Joseph are going to move forward, and Joseph is going to marry a pregnant girl. And Mary is going to bear the Son of God against all of the other rumors that will surround and follow her for the rest of her life. We're up to the point, though, where Mary is now about 9 months pregnant, and they still have not had the wedding ceremony, which would officially make them man and wife. Instead, they are still in the betrothal period. And Joseph does something so unusual at this point. As she is getting close to bearing her child and bringing him into this world, Joseph decides to take Mary, and they're going to go to Bethlehem. Now, at this point, the story points out that there was a registration made when Quirinius was governor of Syria. In other words, this is Luke's effort to try to date this, and so everybody will know what this was all about. But I would like to point out some very interesting things. This, of course, was a registration or a census for the purpose of collecting taxes from everybody. And to organize this whole thing, Joseph was required to go to the hometown of his family, the heritage of his family. Well, he was of the house of David, and he was required to go to Bethlehem to register and to pay his taxes. Now, the Romans, obviously this was a tax for Rome, but some scholars feel that the Romans actually didn't orchestrate this, but this was probably done by some of the political leaders in Israel in order to placate the Romans. And of course, in collecting taxes, whoever the tax collector is would also be able to take a cut for the labor of collecting the taxes. But the Romans probably wouldn't have required Joseph to go to the town of his family lineage. They wouldn't have cared a rip where he was from. They would have just simply counted him, and you owe us taxes. So this was probably orchestrated by the leadership in Israel in order to satisfy the Romans, and it was probably political favors and all kinds of stuff. But irregardless, a census was to be taken. Unlike today, this census probably took maybe as much as a year to conduct. So Joseph probably would have had ample opportunity to get himself down to Bethlehem to register and to pay his taxes. But he chooses at this point to wait until Mary is just about due. And of course, Joseph is dealing with the fallout of this whole thing. And I'm sure with the rumors flying around in Nazareth. But I think he takes Mary with him, even though they're not legally married. He packs her up, takes her out of her home. Now let's consider the possibility, had Joseph gone ahead to Bethlehem and left Mary in Nazareth, I think it was highly likely, and probably in Joseph's mind, that had he not been there to protect her, that the religious Pharisees, the very zealous ones, would have probably hauled Mary out of her house and stoned her for being pregnant within the betrothal period, which would have made her eligible for death. And Joseph, I think, in order to protect her, it's my opinion that he takes her with him to protect her and to protect the child, because Mary could very easily, without Joseph's covering over her, could have been taken and stoned. So he takes her down to Bethlehem, 90 miles away. Now Bethlehem, as best as I could find out, was not only just a small town, but a small town of maybe 100 to 200, not more than 300 people. This would have been a very small town. And Joseph is coming down to this town to register and to pay his taxes. Now I'd like to point out the fact that he's coming to kinfolk. The whole town of Bethlehem is extended family for Joseph and for Mary, because her lineage also goes all the way back to the house of David. And with this in mind, I would like to point out something very unusual. Let's read the scriptures in Luke chapter 2. And this registration was first made by Quirinius, was governor of Syria, and all went to be registered, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea into the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, and to be registered with Mary his espoused wife, being great with child. So it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Now this really surprises me, and it should surprise you too. Let me ask you a question. If you were coming to a town that was completely filled with nothing but your extended family, kinfolk from all over, and I imagine that if the town would have had maybe 100 or 200 people if their population, I don't think, would have doubled at this point. There might have been an additional 50 or 60 or 80 people, which would have made things quite crowded. But this is a town of extended family. So why in the world wasn't there a door opened for Joseph and Mary to come in and be welcomed in and kick some young cousin or nephew or niece out of their room for this poor woman who's just a young girl ready to deliver her first baby? Now, couldn't you imagine some matriarchal aunt going, Benji, get yourself up, you go into the stable. Now, Mary, she's going to deliver a baby. Come on, this is important here. You can go sleep with the goats. That would have been normal for extended family to open their door to help each other. But I would like to suggest that the rumor of this scandalous virgin birth has gone before them, because you see, I think this has been perpetuating for a while. And if the census has been going on for months, then chances are there's already been some people from Nazareth who have gone down, or from other cities, other family who have spread the word that there's this scandalous thing going on in Nazareth. A young girl is pregnant during her espousal period, and the groom is decided to go ahead and marry this pregnant girl. Never anything like this has been heard of in all of Israel, and you can hear them, just rumoring this out and just rolling their eyes, and what a horrible thing this is. So I imagine that the reason there was no room for Mary and Joseph is because nobody in that town was going to offer quarters to the hoe. And I think that's exactly why there was no room there. Because of all the people coming in to register, who wouldn't have had pity on a young girl ready to bring into this world her first child? Unless the scandal of what is happening has gone before them into Nazareth. And I think that's what we see here in the scriptures. I think the reason there was no acceptance of her is because of this tremendous scandal. This scandal is going to follow Joseph and Mary for all of their lives. But I have some good news. This is going to turn around for Joseph and Mary in this little town. And I think I'll save that until the next video, and it has to do with the angelic announcement to the shepherds. Why? Why was that done? I think God took pity on Joseph and Mary, and I'll save all of that till the next time. But I want you to really consider what Joseph and Mary, I think, put up with in order to follow God and to obey His word. And Mary, who had the angelic visitation, and Joseph, who had the angel come to him in a dream, will console each other for the rest of their lives in the face of all of the rumors and all of the sideways glances. And even as Jesus is growing up as a young child, the rumors that will follow him. And we can only imagine. So this Christmas story that we see with our rose-colored Christian glasses really, I think, has been turned into a lovely story. But in truth, I think it was at times a living nightmare for Joseph and Mary to set their face in the direction of following what God has told them to do, no matter what the fallout. So until next week, we'll keep this a little bit short. And if I don't see you here, and if I don't see you there, I'll see you in the air, because we truly are close to the return of this wonderful Jesus.